Oscar Bevis, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast here today with a fantastic view of London, which I don't know why I bothered saying because they can't see. You can see it though, Frank. A big fight and kind of press conference is giving that sort of feel and it's lush.
Yeah, it's great, as you say, great view of London. He can turn it round at the end and show you. Instead, you got a view of me. But yeah, huge fight. Taylor Serrano, second leg of the press tour. Obviously started in New York last week. It's been a huge week of ticket sales and good to have both of them here and everyone associated with it here in London. So it's a huge fight. It's going to be a huge night and can't wait for it to come around now.
I don't want to say you kind of getting bored of hearing it because Matchroom have been so heavily involved with women's boxing for a while, but it's kind of that same narrative of women's boxing needed this. You're glad it's finally happened, but I know because you've been involved with women's boxing heavily for so many years now. I know, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like people are pushing as if this is like the first big female fight in a way.
Yeah, there's been tons of huge female fights. This is a massive fight on its own right. You know, as we've seen from the ticket sales, they sold more tickets already than most American shows sell, whether men or women, you know, whatever. So this is a huge fight. It's huge for the sport. And like you say, we promote, I think, 16 female fighters. We've been promoting Katie Taylor since her debut, and it's great to get her this opportunity as well for the biggest fight. Because this is the biggest fight in Katie Taylor's career, and you know we'll just set up for more and more big nights in the years to come. So you know it's great that it's finally here. It was a long time coming, a lot of work from a lot of people. So glad it got over the line.
I think what I was trying to say is like people are making out that women's boxing. No. What I was trying to say is did women's boxing need this, but I suppose it's good to have it, but did Katie Taylor need this more specifically? Because it was kind of like the only black mark on what's been such a good career.
Yeah, I think for Katie Taylor, this was the fight she had to have. So she's already got a legacy, but to cement it, this is the biggest fight out there for her. So, you know, to make it happen, we're delighted it's gone across the line, and you know it's going to be a great fight. So I think in Katie Taylor's career, huge moment, and Amanda Serrano's as well. You know, both of them have played a huge part in getting female boxing to where it is, and I'm just glad we got it together.
Jake Paul's involvement, obviously such a big talking point. I know from the sort of time you've known Jake Paul, I remember being in Miami for his professional fighting debut, and we never would have thought it would have come to something like this. But from knowing Jake Paul and working alongside him the time that you have, just sort of your take on how things have progressed for Jake, because he's gone from sort of the rash kid who made his debut as a YouTuber to someone who's now like empowering female boxing.
I think it can only be good for the sport. You know, more eyeballs on the sport, the better. Female boxing, great, but as well, you know, you see what he's doing in UFC, trying to push for in UFC, and the pay. You know, it's great for the athletes. They deserve it. So, you know, he's only a positive effect on all of it. I think. You know, everyone has an opinion, don't they? But ultimately, he's making a big difference. So fair play to him, and you know, it's good for us. It's good for everyone involved in boxing. You know, some people might not like him, some people might not like what he does, but I think he's good. And I think the longer he's involved, the better it is.
Is it one of them things where whatever he's involved in as well, there's always going to be like a little subplot of Jake Paul? It doesn't matter how big a fight is. If he's involved in it, there's always going to be such attention just on him.
Yeah, but I also think, you know, regardless of whether you like him or not, you're talking about him, aren't you? So he's making waves. So that, again, is good for the sport. And, you know, I kind of think he gets sort of a hard time with it all, because what's stopping you or I saying I want to be a boxer tomorrow? Nothing, ultimately. We might not be very good, but we could still do it. And maybe we don't have a following, maybe no one cares about us. His difference, he's got a ready-made audience of people that care about him. You know, a huge following. I think he's got something like 20 million followers or subscribers on YouTube alone. So, you know, he's doing his thing, and yeah, I think fair play and good for the sport, good for everyone.
You think it's because people talk about that audience and, all right, he's just jumped into boxing, but we say he's got the audience behind him. I suppose you still have to work for that audience. It's just you've worked in a different area before. Like, it's not like he's just got 20 million people who've seen him and gone, I'll just follow him.
Yeah, look, he's done a lot of hard work in the sector he's in. You know, that you're right, not maybe you a bit more closer, but I haven't done that. You know, he's built that himself. That's taken a lot of work. And he's just now taking that into something new. So it's not like he's just clicked his fingers and gone, oh, here I am. He's put the work in. Maybe in a different area, but he's put the work in. So, like I say, I think it's good. I think, you know, I understand the issue people may have with, you know, people having one-off fights and, you know, these exhibition fights. But I think if you're taking it seriously, if you're training, and if you've got a plan to actually become a boxer as a career, then why shouldn't you have that ability to do that? Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't I? Like, if I change my mind tomorrow, why should someone stop me from doing it? In my opinion.
Frank, we've got this whole thing going on with Tyson and Dillian, and it feels like every day there's a development, and we still kind of don't know where we actually are. Considering, I mean, Eddie said, considering the lack of matchroom involvement, and obviously the involvement with Dillian over his career, does it kind of feel weird to sit back and see things knowing that, you know, there isn't such a strong matchroom involvement this time with Dillian?
Not really. I think it happens. You know, it's a different. We obviously went for the purse bid. We didn't win, and I think everyone's making a lot bigger deal out of everything than they need to. You know, everyone reads into these plots and these bits and pieces, which are all like normal things, but it's because it's getting a lot more exposure that people are questioning every single little item around it. So, you know, we've had a great relationship with Dillian, worked together for a long time, some great shows, and this is his chance to go in there and become the WBC World Heavyweight Champion. So we're 100% behind him to go and do that.
So you can say, look, because everyone's reading into these subplots, because it's one of the biggest purse bids ever, I suppose, so people are going to get every single detail. Nothing out of the extraordinary has actually happened. This is all like a normal process.
Yeah, but it's like people saying he's got until X day to sign the contract. That is the rules of a purse bid. You know, so both of them have got until X day to sign the contract. You know, you've got X days to put the money in. You've got, you know, this is the split of the purse bid. You know, there's still an argument about that, still ongoing, obviously. But, you know, all of this is normal. But people, because it's got quite a lot of media exposure, people read into it a bit more. But I'm sure we'll see it happen. Massive fight.
Could you see why people were kind of like, even again, I'll go back to the interview Eddie done with Coogan, just one of the only ones he's done so far, but can you see why people were saying, we're waiting for Eddie and Matchroom to break their silence? Can you see why people were thinking that?
Yeah, but it's not our fight, is it? So, like,
but even if it wasn't, can you see why people were like...
yeah, but we're not going to put a post out going, oh, here's the deal. Like, you know, they haven't announced it, have they? All they've announced is we won the purse bid for it. Since then, they haven't said anything more. So I don't know what more they expect, anyone expects of us to say. Like, you know, we're not going to do a poster and go, Fury v White, because it's not our show. And it would be very strange if we did, wouldn't it? So I think, like Eddie said in his interview, if he gets asked about it, he'll comment on it. But he's not going to go out of his way to build up someone else's show, is it? You know, so that's the position, I think.
Did you watch Chris Eubank and Liam Williams at the weekend?
I was there. I was in Cardiff. Yeah. I thought it was a good fight. You know, good show, good crowd in there. Chris did well, and Liam tough as always. But you know, a good fight. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here.
I'm just wondering, because obviously Billy Joe, as kind of always when Eubank fights, has sort of come out and said if he was to be in a rematch, he'd beat him even if he was half dead at the weight and whatnot. Typical Billy Joe stuff. Having worked with Billy Joe for sort of the most recent part of his career, if he was to come back, would that be a fight that Matchroom would show interest in?
Yeah, it's definitely a fight that a lot of people would show interest in, you know. It's a massive fight. Be interesting because I know, like, Eubank Jr. is talking about staying at 160, and that's where he wants his fights. You know, Billy Joe was obviously 168 in his last fight, and I don't think he'd go down to 160, so it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But, you know, massive. That's a massive fight to be made, and let's see how things play out on that front.
Do you take the Conor Ben call out as tongue-in-cheek?
Definitely a fight in time, isn't it? But he's obviously 147 now. Chris is 160. It's a bit of a gap, but definitely something that can happen in time, isn't it? But I don't think that's something in the immediate future, and it's similar to what Calla said as well.
So just because it's just set up in it, like it's not going to happen in the immediate future, but it is kind of set up. Whether it happens now or in 5 years, it just is.
I think it could happen. You know, stranger things have happened, haven't they? So that's let's see how things play out. You know, Chris has obviously been a professional for a lot longer than Conor. He's been, you know, he's had a lot of big fights over the years. Conor is stepping into that place now in real step-up fights, and you know, I definitely think in time as Conor, you know, what is he? Conor's 23, isn't he? And Chris is 32. So they are slightly at different stages of their career, but something that could definitely happen in time. And I'll be there, you know. I'll be family on one side.
I was going to say, this is, because I asked you if you watch a fight, obviously completely oblivious to the fact that you would have been there. That puts you in an awkward position now. Would you rather that fight didn't happen?
Oh, look, I think it's a good fight. If it makes sense for them both, then it's a massive fight. I just have to be, I'm quite impartial anyway. Everyone knows that, you know. But I'll have to wear 2 hats, won't I?
I'll be ringside with a camera just fixated on you, waiting for the slightest twitch.
I won't watch it. That's probably easier. I just like putting the events on and putting the shows on, and then we go from there, don't we? I can't do anything more than that. So, but can you imagine how big it would be? Eubank, Ben, again. Or would it be Ben Eubank? We'll have to have,
there we go.
have an argument about
Well, there we go, yeah. There we go. Just finally, Frank, obviously, with so much talk around Whyte and Fury, it's kind of, I know, taking second fiddle, but we're still waiting for Usyk-Joshua rematch news. What's the deal?
Yeah, we're working through all that now. Hope to have some updates for people soon. Obviously, an event of that magnitude takes planning, takes organisation. So we're going through that process now, and I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully have more details. But AJ's 100%. He's been training hard, pushing himself hard, and he believes, and we believe he goes back in there and does the job, and sets up a massive fight for the winner of Fury-Whyte as well.
Was it kind of nice, just, obviously I know it would have been from Joshua's perspective, but as a team, to just kind of get things out of the way when there was that whole couple of weeks of, is Joshua going to do this, is he going to do this? As soon as Whyte and Fury do their thing, and the purse bids are over, it kind of, I know, takes weight off any decision that has to be made, and it's kind of, it was probably quite nice for you as a team to just have that sorted, to people know that Usyk-Joshua is a thing.
Yeah, look, we were always working on the process. There was obviously discussions that were being had, but AJ was always fixated on the Usyk rematch, and for us now we can set our sights on getting those plans together. Like I say, for an event of this magnitude takes a lot of work. Sorry for which.
Right, the press conference has just started. I'm just going to ask you one more thing quickly. I know you had a meeting with Derek Chisora. Just what sort of things were said?
Derek Chisora, it was good to catch up with him, working on some options for later in this year. He wants big fights, he wants big nights, so let's see how things go.
Sweet, Frank.